Welcome to Through the Trauma podcast. My name is Amber Larkins, published photographer, storytelling expert, visual artist, entrepreneur, speaker, and coach. This podcast was born from one question: how do I get inspiring stories of triumph out to the people who need to hear them the most? Come with me, enter my world, where lives are getting changed, heroes are getting developed, and greatness is being achieved. Hello and welcome to another episode of Through the Trauma podcast. I am Amber Larkins, your host. And if you are a regular listener here on the podcast, then you know that today I'm showing up a little bit different. And what is that? I'm showing up all alone. I don't have a guest. I'm not interviewing anyone today. And there's a specific reason for that. Main reason being that we are moving into season 2. We have been at the podcast now for a year. And I've learned a lot of things, and we are moving full speed ahead into season 2. And I wanted to just come on, share a little bit about my gratitude for all of the support that I've had over this last year, the lives that we've changed, and we've got to see some of this with the messages and things that we've listened to, the different stories that we've covered, the different people and guests that have come on and been willing to share, the immense feedback that we've gotten from both guests and listeners, and just the support in general has been overwhelming in so many ways. So I wanted to first just thank everyone. If you have listened to an episode, if you have commented on an episode or liked an episode or subscribed to our channel, either on YouTube or any of our podcast platforms, I just want to say thank you, because it takes your support for this to happen. And I truly believe that while we're still only a year into this, I truly feel led to make this podcast great. I think it has truly helped a lot of people in the trauma space. And my heart is to continue to just do what serves people best. I believe that we have the power as human beings to create a beautiful world. And I believe that that starts with changing ourselves and then being able to speak our truths and help other people change themselves and change their situations and circumstances for the better. And I feel like when we do this, it creates a domino effect and we leave a legacy. So that is where I'm coming from with this podcast tonight. It has been so important to me over this last year to just see the way that it has impacted so many things. This platform is something God had instilled in my heart long ago. I didn't know that it was a podcast. I didn't know that it was this kind of thing. I didn't know until I started taking massive action towards creating this podcast. And that's when I found truth and fulfillment and enjoyment and peace. And I have found so much joy in doing this and in being able to serve people on a whole different level. So for all of that, I just want to give you my sincere gratitude and thanks. Now, I do want to briefly kind of recap season 1. We had some amazing guests that had come on. We've covered everything from PTSD, abuse, health traumas, and getting your health back on track, eating disorders, porn recovery, trafficking. We've talked to some trafficking survivors. We've covered grief and really so much more. If you have not had a chance to go in and look through the titles of our podcast and see which one best serves you, I would encourage you to do so, because we have some amazing episodes that has happened in season 1. And there's only more to come. Some of the guests have included psychotherapists, coaches specifically related to youth. We've had doctors, we've had experts, we've had authors, and again, so much more. We've covered different modalities, everything from EMDR to medical treatment to MDMA to psychedelics, marijuana, all of the things, some of the things that some people deem as even unorthodox. We've covered it. We've also covered recovery from drug abuse and recovery from alcoholism. these are just a couple of the things. And without getting into too much detail, we have 50 plus episodes recorded. So I would encourage you, if any of those things hit home to you, then go take a listen to some of those, because we have some amazing episodes, amazing guests that have shared their stories. Now, if you've not listened to Through the Trauma podcast, or even if you have and you have kind of got a feel for how we conduct things there, I do just want to run through this with you. We cover a 4-part framework on Through the Trauma podcast. That is, we're covering the trauma story of the guests that we're talking to. We're covering the transformational journey that they've gone through, because no one just moves from healing. It's not an overnight thing, it's a journey. We cover the triumph story of where they are today. So these are people that have overcome their trauma and they are on the up and up. They're on the healing side of it. And we cover that, and that in and of itself shows so much empowerment and inspiration, because if someone's struggling through trauma, they can look at that and say, if this person made it through, so can I. And that was my heart from the very beginning of this podcast. And then lastly, we give takeaways, big takeaways from that episode. What would this person recommend that these people go do if you're struggling with these things? What do they recommend you go do? What do they recommend for you to help overcome this trauma? What has helped them? What are the different modalities that they have seen work, maybe not only in themselves, but in others? So these are all things that we cover, and I believe covering that 4-part series, the trauma, the transformation, the triumph, and the takeaway, you get a full, robust episode of what to do if you struggle through those types of traumas. And you get different opinions. So we don't just cover one of these stories. We like to cover several different stories from multiple angles of one particular type of trauma. So with that being said, I am excited to usher in season 2, because we are moving right along. And I had planned, like right at episode 50, to go ahead and drop season 2. But time is of the essence and it gets away from me. And it's been busy. And even though we've been at a year at the podcast, podcasting is still really new to me. So it has taken a little bit of time to just iron out all the kinks. And I feel very blessed. I feel blessed that you guys are on this journey with me and that we are doing this together, because it has been an immense blessing in so many ways. And I think that we not only cover trauma here, but we cover mindset. I'm huge on mindset. I'm huge on personal growth. I'm huge on getting over those hurdles of healing so that we can be the best person that we are created to be, that God created us to be, so that we can contribute in our place in the world, because in that is where we find purpose. It's where we find joy, and it's where we find fulfillment. And so I want to encourage every single person to find these places, discover these things, and then run towards your purpose with everything that you have, because that is where you're going to find fulfillment in this life. Now, you may be asking, okay, well, Amber, so what is coming for season 2? How are you going to make this better? And I've asked myself that too. And I'll tell you that I believe that we have seen research has shown, and also just my experience in doing and recording the last year of this podcast, I have seen that a lot of people who have undergone some type of traumatic event, some type of thing in their life, they have begun to use that thing to somehow help people. And I think that you've heard this where it's said, like, if you're a teacher, the best way to learn something is to teach someone else. Well, the best way to overcome trauma and hurt and pain and healing is to go and offer a helping hand for those who are going through it behind you. I think that is the pure joy of fellowship and of human relationship. So I believe that the only way to truly make this podcast better is to continue to interview people who not only have gone through these traumatic events, but who have gone through them and have made it a purpose in their life to reach back and help pull those others up that are going through this type of trauma. So, what does that look like? Well, I've seen over the last year that it seems like the episodes that have got the best feedback are people who are doing something in the space of their trauma that they've experienced, whether that be they've become a speaker now and they're speaking on this particular type of trauma, or it's manifested into mindset coaching, or it's manifested into helping people in life coaching or finances, or there's any number of things that people can gravitate to, but it's that trauma that has really transformed their life and made them into something triumphant. And these are the people that I've seen that can speak freely about their trauma. They've healed completely from their trauma, and they're reaching back to give back, to serve others through their experience. And I'm looking for guests that fit those credentials, because I truly feel like those are the people that are resonating the most. We don't want to look to someone who, while we might look to someone for advice who may be going through the same things that we're going through, we want to look to people who've overcome that thing. And those are the people that we're looking to, like, how did you overcome this, so that I too can try that to see if that would work for me. And that's really my heart behind the podcast in general. And I'm hoping as we move into season 2, we can get even more powerful guests, even more exciting things and resources and tools and tricks that we can use to overcome and to heal. Now, we're planning to add some special things going into season 2 as well. So as most of you know, I am passionate about this project. I have been. I can't stop. I've gone through, I would be lying if I said I haven't been through ups and downs through this podcast. I definitely have. Main thing being that as an empath, it's difficult sometimes for me to hear people's stories, for me to hear the things that they've been through, and then try to kind of rehash that when I go to editing the podcast or to watching the clips. I feel like I'm reliving that again. And I've had to learn a lot and do a lot of self-growth in myself, to not only to keep those things somewhat separate, but to keep my full vision in mind of I'm doing this to help other people. And it's, but it's definitely come with challenges. But nonetheless, it's one of those things that God has truly placed on my heart, and I cannot stop this. I believe that there are lives that need to be changed and transformed. And if I can be a catalyst for that, then I hope to do that, and I won't stop until I do. And that is something that God has placed on my heart. So for those of you who have listened, you know that I am a Christian. I do believe that God has walked with me through my own trauma, through my own experiences, and He has helped me to heal. And I would love to be the catalyst and offer that to other people. However, this is not a Christian podcast. This is a mental health, mental awareness, mental advocacy podcast. And I don't believe that as a Christian, we're only meant to talk to other Christians. While some, that may be your calling, that is not my calling. My calling is to talk to everyone and to share my love with everyone. And I don't care who you are or what you identify as. My job is to love you. And I think that there's always underlying things as to why humans do what they do. And that is because they are healing from their traumas. They're healing from their triggers. So my heart is just to help people overcome those things so that they don't have to live in that any longer. They can move past whatever is bothering them, whatever is holding them back, whatever is keeping them in that place stuck, and break free from those things. So my job is never to pressure or to tell anyone what you need to do with your life. My job is to be a catalyst to connect you with people who can help you overcome. Self growth is a lifelong journey. And I don't think any human being that has ever walked the face of the earth has mastered that. I think that every single person, it's still a journey. We are still going through this journey. But in life, we may go through different types of trauma. And in that, we can find help and healing in that particular type of trauma. And then later down the road, we might see that we need help on a different type of trauma that someone else has already gone through. So it's an amazing thing, just connecting as humans, being able to build a community of people. And so going into season 2, we're going to be interviewing a whole lot more experts. We are also in discussions of putting together another segment of Through the Trauma podcast that specifically covers businesses, because so many of my guests that come on have their own business that helps people overcome whatever type of trauma that they have overcome. And I want to provide a place for business owners to help them as well know how to best market their business and hear from other business owners. I'm by no means an expert on anything on trauma, on entrepreneurship, but I am eager to learn. And I think if you're eager to learn and eager to grow, then this is the place for you. So I'm hoping to put together another segment for my entrepreneurs that can build and see how trauma has shaped and molded a particular entrepreneur into business. And maybe it's related and maybe it's not, maybe it's indirectly related, but whatever that looks like, because I'm eager to learn from those of you who are far ahead and in whatever area of life. So now another amazing thing that we are really wanting to start with Through the Trauma podcast is a Patreon page. And the goal there is to give you guys more. Give you more of what happens behind the scenes, help to build more of a community so we can connect with each other. If you see a guest on the podcast and you're like, I want to connect with that person, well, we give you opportunities to connect with them on social media and maybe on their email, maybe on their website. We want to provide a place for you to connect with them on a deeper level and maybe on a personal level. And we hope that by embarking on a Patreon page and building a community around that it will help. It'll help change mindsets and help people grow and become that 2.0 version of themselves in whatever area of life that they're looking to grow in. Now, going into season 2, I do want to invite you. If you have not subscribed to our channel, I invite you to do that. I'm trying to name all of the episodes according to what their title is and what we discuss there. But you can always go into the show notes if you want more information. But every episode may not be for every single person. And I never intended it to be. I want you to find the specialist or the expert that resonates most with you and listen to those episodes. Also, if it's something that touches your heart that you want more information about, like sex trafficking, that is something near and dear to my heart. And I did an awesome episode in season 1. I have an amazing episode coming up in season 2. Both of these ladies have been very transparent in sharing their story, but that's something that has been near and dear to my heart, and wanting more information, wanting more of an awareness, wanting to know more of what's going on in the world and what's going on right underneath our noses. So what I really want you to take away is that when you see the episodes pop out every Friday, we drop a new episode every Friday. I want you to be able to look at those episode titles and say, oh, this is something that I need to hear, or this is something that I want to hear. And then pick and choose which ones you want to listen to. But I do invite you, if you find an episode that resonates with you, if you find an episode that really touches your heart, go ahead and comment on it, because that helps us grow the podcast. Go ahead and subscribe so that you can see these come through, and then comment on them so that it helps us grow. I also encourage you to reach out, follow the people who I've interviewed on social media, especially if they have spoken to you. because building connections and networks are vital. Now, I want to get really real for a moment. If you are someone who has or is struggling with trauma, if you're going through your own trauma right now, I've been there. I was at a place of hopelessness several years ago, and I felt completely hopeless and I felt completely alone. And if that is you and you are feeling like you are completely alone, I invite you to reach out. Reach out to us. I may or may not be able to help you, but I do know that through this platform, we are able to connect you with other people that possibly can help you. So don't hesitate to reach out. That is what this platform is for. That is what my heart was driven by when I started this podcast, is to help other people. So I want you to know you don't have to go through it alone. You have this podcast to listen to, you have resources to reach out to. And for those of you who are truly wanting to overcome and heal and grow and become that 2.0 version of yourself, there is a way and there's hope to do that. So I just want to invite you to do that. And just remember that here on Through the Trauma podcast, our heart is really for hope and healing and community. And we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't do that. So I want you to know that I'm reaching out a helping hand to you. I have so many guests that would also love to reach out to you. And I just want to encourage you to continue to listen and share this podcast with anyone that maybe pops in your mind as you're listening to me say this. So with that being said, I don't want to keep you for too long today. I know this is not a typical episode, so we're not going to go quite as long as a normal episode would. But I do want you to know from the bottom of my heart, I am so thankful for every one of you. And if you've listened to the end of this, I am so grateful for you. I am grateful for everything that you have done. I am grateful for the partnership and the collaborations that I've had. And I am so grateful for you. I want to encourage you to continue to listen. Feel free to reach out with any kind of feedback that you have for us as we continue to just grow and make this platform better and more beneficial for those of you who are listening. And I want you to stay tuned as we're dropping this episode today. Next week, we have an amazing episode coming for you. This is in the next lineup for us starting season 2. So I invite you to listen, stay tuned for that episode. And again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for listening to Through the Trauma podcast. If you have found value in this episode or believe in the mission behind what we are doing, please subscribe so that you never miss any future episodes. Also, be sure to check out our transformation project at transformationthroughtraumaproject.com, where we help inspirational stories get heard on a larger scale through multiple platforms. If you know someone who can benefit from this episode, please share it with them. Until next time.